Let's move to Tampa Bay because that's something that is really an interesting dynamic because you look at what the Buccaneers are doing and you look at this team and say, hey, much improved in terms of the win and loss column from last year. They're 7-4. They're second in the NFC South, fighting for a wild card spot. But yet things are kind of in turmoil a little bit in terms of what's happened on the offensive side of the football because they've now lost back-to-back primetime games at home. One being a thrashing against the New Orleans Saints where they were down 31-0 in the first half. And then most recently to the Rams at home. Nick, what's going on with this offense in Tampa Bay? Because I want to get your perspective on it, given specifically that dynamic between Tom Brady and Bruce Arians.
They are uncreative and not playing to the strengths of their personnel, and that's coaching. So Tom Brady at 43 years old is not someone who is pushing the football down the field the way that Jameis Winston did last year. In his last 9 attempts of 15-plus yards, Brady's 1 of 9. That's not very good. I'm not good at math, but that's not good. So when you are continuing to ask him to throw the football down the field, I know you have weapons. You have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, but that's never been what Tom Brady has been about, and they continue to do it. It's pretty incredible. They don't have a running game to spread things open to make teams respect the deep shot in the way that you would want to work off of that. Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette have not been fantastic in that backfield tandem. And then at that point, you're not running what Brady has been accustomed to and what makes him most successful. And that's not all on Bruce Arians necessarily, because Tom Brady has certainly lost a step. There's no denying that. He is not playing at the level that he has at times back in New England. But you have to play to his strengths, and they're not doing that. You have to spread the biggest thing about Tom Brady, you have to spread out the formation, and here's why. The biggest thing about Tom Brady at 43 years old, and the most remarkable thing, is he's got 20-plus years of being an NFL quarterback and looking at defenses across from him. How much knowledge does one accumulate 20-plus years in reading defenses and understanding what they are looking to do to you?
It's a lot.
What is the primary advantage of spreading out an offense is you are forcing a defense to declare itself. You can't disguise the coverage that you are in when you spread things out because you run the risk of being out of position. There are only so many things you can only disguise from one so far because you have to move, from pre-snap to post-snap. So if I'm going to disguise like I'm blitzing, I can only get to the slot. I can't get out toward the sideline or whatever type of variation of disguise and coverage that you want to use. So what Tampa Bay is not doing very well right now is they are not spreading things out and getting a defense to declare itself. And they've got so many weapons to do that. They've got Antonio Brown. They've got Evans. They've got Godwin. They've got Gronk. They can do all those things. And yet they seem to be insistent on running this type of offense that is more suited for pushing the football down the field and operating with Jameis Winston. There were times where New England didn't run the football very well when Brady was there either. What they did was hammer the short and intermediate passing game as an extension of the run game, get players out in space, play matchups, and Tampa Bay isn't doing that right now. It's not all on Bruce Arians, but a lot of it is, and I don't really like what I'm seeing out of their offensive play calling right now, and he better be careful because it is very clear with the signing of Antonio Brown that Tom Brady has a lot of influence in coming to that Tampa Bay organization, and at some point, if this team is not successful and continues on the trajectory that they are on right now, Bruce Arians may be out of a job in short order because Brady doesn't have a lot of time left. He's not going to be patient about, let's see how things go in year 2. If he's at odds with Bruce Arians, we know who's going to go, and it's going to be Arians, and he better hope that they can turn this thing around because if not, he's going to be gone.
With you explaining the spreading out of the offense, I feel like I was in that Office scene when Oscar is explaining the budget to Michael Scott, and he's just like, all right, explain this to me like I'm 5. That was a very good explanation as to what's wrong with this offense, because I completely agree. I think that you look at what the main problem is, in addition to Brady not being that good, in my opinion, because I think we're at that point in Tom Brady's career where, personally, I was of the opinion before the season that I would have rather had Jameis Winston starting at quarterback than Tom Brady. Just because I think that in Bruce Arians' offense, which is largely meant for what we've seen in the past with what Carson Palmer did in Arizona and what Jameis did in his year with him in Tampa Bay. It's a big play offense, but it's also a turnover-prone offense, which is why Jameis Winston threw 30 picks last year. And that's also on him because, listen, it's Jameis Winston. There's not much explanation to do there. But I think that a lot of it is just that they're not on the same page right now. And it's crazy to me because this is a team that is likely going to be end up in a playoff spot because what they do on defense is terrific. I mean, this is one of Brady's more talented teams, honestly. Like, if you look from a talent perspective, defensively, they are terrific. They rush the quarterback really well. Their linebackers are terrific. And they play really damn good defense. And Todd Bowles has done a terrific job in Tampa Bay with that defense as well. And on the offensive side, I mean, I think the offensive line is pretty good. It's not great, but it gets the job done. You have talented running backs there. I think Ronald Jones is, in terms of talent, is one of the best 10 running backs in the NFL. And the weapons are the weapons. I mean, there's not really much to mention there. I mean, you have a Hall of Fame tight end. You have a Hall of Fame receiver in Antonio Brown. You have maybe the best slot receiver from last year in Chris Godwin. And then Mike Evans is Mike Evans. He's one of the best deep ball threats in the NFL. So, like, if you look at the skill positions and you look at the defense, this team should probably be one of the best in the NFL. And listen, I mean, at 7-4, they're pretty good. But I think that in addition to the play calling, which I agree, I think that is an issue in itself. At some point, I think we got to acknowledge that Tampa Bay has a quarterback problem. And Brady, I think, is a big part of this because he's not really a guy who's going to make many plays down the field, like you mentioned. And if Arians isn't going to commit to the short and intermediate pass game to make up for what the run game has not been able to do, then this isn't going to work out. And like you mentioned, Tom Brady seemingly has a lot of pull in Tampa right now. And Arians is going to be without a job. And honestly, I don't think he should be without a job for very long because I think there are a lot worse coaches in the NFL, particularly in New York. There's one of them who's a lot worse than Bruce Arians right now. But I think you diagnosed the problem really well. And it'll be interesting to see if they adjust down the stretch because you got two guys with really big egos in Bruce Arians and Tom Brady. And when heads like that clash, it usually doesn't end well.
No, and the one last thing that I want to get in here, when you mentioned Jameis Winston and the transition, I don't think you're crazy to say that either. The two differences between Tampa Bay last year when I believe they were 7-9 and this year where they are better is that Brady is doing a marginally better job of taking care of the football, right? So Tom Brady had 8 interceptions last year. He's already got 9 this year through the first 11 games that they've played. So it's not good, but it's better than the 30 turnovers, 30 interceptions that Jameis threw.
Oh, there we go. We got him back. DeLuca, we lost you for a second, but you're back.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I'm sorry. So then you missed what I was saying. And part of the issues there with Bruce Arians and Tom Brady, I guess the biggest takeaway, and I'll just finish up on this, is that part of the issue, they're both are related in that Tom Brady is not the player that he once was, and it's the coach's job to cover up some of the deficiencies that weren't there previously. So Brady is not the same type of player. He needs a coach who's going to play to his strengths more so and can overcome the bad coaching the way he's never had but could have because he was that type of player. Arians has got to wake up, and Tampa Bay will have to figure things out.
So we got DeLuca's point in there. And, of course, right when I came in is when we got you back. That seems to be how it works. It's just the timing was clearly off there. But, again, glad to have you back. And it will be interesting to watch going forward because I think this is a team – this is a championship caliber defense with a quarterback problem on the offensive end and a coaching problem as well in Bruce Arians. So